Hey there, it's Dave Altavilla for Hot Hardware, and this little beastie here in front of me is the all-new Maingear Turbo. And wouldn't you know, it's packing some serious AMD Ryzen 3000 XT firepower under its hood. What do you say we take a look? This here is the Maingear Turbo. It's based on a standard Mini ITX platform, but from a chassis, cooling, and lighting standpoint, it is a fully custom affair. The Turbo measures 12.3 inches tall by 14.4 inches deep by 6.7 inches wide, but what Maingear managed to cram and cool inside this pint-sized petite powerhouse is amazing, to be sure. Our tiny but towering turbo is powered by none other than AMD's Ryzen 9 3900 XT for a little extra turbo boost, 12-core processor that boosts 4.7 gigahertz, and NVIDIA's GeForce RTX 2080 Ti is here pushing the pixels. And this Ryzen is hosted by an Asus ROG Strix X570i gaming Mini ITX motherboard with Wi-Fi 6. Also on board is 32 gigs of Kingston HyperX Fury RGB DDR4 3600 MHz memory, as well as a 1 terabyte Seagate FireCuda 520 Gen 4 NVMe solid state drive, and that's backed up by a whopping 4 terabyte Western Digital Black hard drive. And all of that is powered by Corsair's SF750W, believe it or not, 750 watt power supply inside this tiny little machine. Of course, brilliantly lit with copious custom RGB goodness and Asus Aura lighting control. Getting inside the Maingear Turbo is as easy as removing a single thumb screw from the top ventilation plate, removing that, and then pushing up gently on the side tempered glass panel. Comes right off. It's a very simple, elegant design that's very accessible. Tight tolerances and good build quality all around here. This is a very well-built machine. Both the CPU and GPU are fully liquid cooled by Maingear's custom Apex liquid cooling solution and Apex hardline clear tubing. The Apex liquid cooling solution is a custom design by Maingear that's manufactured by Bits Power, and as you can see, it's a beautiful labyrinth of precision from custom CPU and GPU blocks to its distribution blocks and a pump and a 280 millimeter radiator up top in the system as well. Getting in a little bit closer here with the Apex liquid cooling solution, you can see the send and return feeds for both the CPU and GPU cooling blocks, as well as the main distribution block where there's actually a pump behind it. That pump actually pushes a fair bit of volume, so everything stays really well cooled, and it's quiet as well. There's also a drain port on the bottom and a fill port on the top of the block. And in the back of the chassis, you can see there's another small distribution block that pipes up to the radiator. And by the way, that rad looks to be a Bits Power Leviathan Slim 280 radiator that supports a pair of 140 millimeter fans. Getting inside the backside of the turbo is as easy as lifting up on the ventilated backside panel. And here you can see that tiny but amazing Corsair SF750 750 watt power supply. Unbelievable that it pushes that much power in that little space. And also, that fan on the power supply doesn't spin up unless there's a pretty good load in the system. It actually stays quiet and still for the most part. And here you can also see the Western Digital 4 terabyte black hard drive. And as you can see as well, nice braided cabling by the folks at Maingear. And in addition to the Turbo's USB-A ports that are front mounted, as well as a headphone jack, on the rear of the Turbo, you get a nice assortment of ports from the Asus motherboard. Here you've got 4 USB 3.2 Gen 1 ports and 4 USB 3.2 Gen 2 ports, 3 of which are Type A and 1 of which is Type C. You also get HDMI 2.0 and DisplayPort 1.4 connectivity in support of an APU in your system, as well as Intel Wireless AX2 Wi-Fi 6 connectivity. Here you can see the Wi-Fi 6 antenna mounts on the back as well, Gigabit Ethernet, and illuminated audio ports. And finally, that GeForce RTX 2080 Ti is a Founders Edition card with a standard I/O complement there, from its display ports to HDMI 2.0 to the USB-C port for VR setups. But enough about all that glorious technology and high-end exotic cooling. We're sure you want to know how the Maingear Turbo performs under a heavy-duty gaming workload. Here's Middle-earth Shadow of War at 4K Ultra settings, skipping along at a silky smooth 75 frames per second. Or how about a little Lara Croft action, traipsing through the jungle with deadly precision here in Shadow of the Tomb Raider, also at 4K highest image quality settings and a buttery smooth 65 frames per second. And of course, there's nothing like banding together with your brothers and sisters of the Coalition and slaying the Horde with reckless abandon here in Gears 5. At 4K Ultra settings as well, and a blisteringly fast 63 frames per second of death-dealing goodness. Finally, you might be wondering just how well that Ryzen 9 3900 XT performs with all that Maingear Apex liquid cooling, keeping it chill. Here's a quick sanity check with Cinebench 20. We were able to coax 7,233 Cinebench points out of the little beast. Now you're probably thinking all that horsepower in such a tiny little frame, it's probably getting loud under load, but that's actually not the case, at least according to our absolute torture test that we put it through with Furmark and simultaneous Prime 95 under full load for both CPU and GPU, and only putting out about 50 dB of acoustics inches away from the chassis. However, all that potent, petite, elegant horsepower does come at a bit of a premium. The Maingear Turbo starts at $14.99 for the base config with standard all-in-one liquid coolers, not the Apex liquid cooling system you see here in our configuration. Our as-tested price is $4,979, but that does include the Ryzen 9 3900 XT, 32 gigs of high-speed RAM, the 1 terabyte NVMe SSD, that 4 terabyte hard drive, and of course, the NVIDIA GeForce RTX 2080 Ti GPU. So fully loaded for bare config at $4,979, $14.99 entry price. So that wraps up our hands-on video review of the Maingear Turbo, but make sure you stop by HotHardware.com for our full deep dive review with copious benchmarks and a lot more analysis. So there you have it. It's a cute little fella, but it's got some bite. I'm Dave Altavilla for Hot Hardware with the all-new Maingear Turbo with AMD Ryzen 3000 XT firepower. Hit thumbs up, subscribe, and thanks for stopping by.